So how did innocent little old Mikey turn Hello Kitty into Devil Kitty? This is a bad Mikey video. I'm gonna get into it. Give me a like while the intro plays. I told you this was gonna be tough, but so some of you may have seen my gay guy who dated females video. If not, I'll post a link in the description as usual. But if I remember correctly, the way that video ends is that I said, I realized that I was gay, but I still had a few other encounters with women. This video, and again, it is a bad Mikey video. It's about the last encounter that I had with a woman. And I've mentioned this before with my bad Mikey videos. They're not painting me in a good light, so I don't really enjoy telling the story. But I think for my channel, it's a good balance to the other videos that I post. But on a personal level, there is something that I find beneficial and therapeutic in revisiting some of those parts of yourself that you're not necessarily proud of, because hopefully you can grow from that, and you can only grow when you know where you started from, if that makes any sense. So while like in the moment I don't enjoy making these videos, I do know that there's a positive impact that happens for me, at least afterwards. So that's why I make them, and let's get into this story. Okay, it takes place in Fallon, Nevada, when I was in the military. And Fallon, it's like our squadron, we would go there for 2 or 3 weeks at a time, sometimes a month, and it was for training purposes. Most of us hated going to Fallon. At the time, it was this really small, dusty town where the highlight was that there were tons of casinos on the main street, on the main strip. And so that's kind of like what we did after work, is we would go to the casinos and just gamble and drink, and that was the highlight of our trip. And some of these casinos would have different marketing techniques to get people to show up, as you can imagine. This one in particular, and this is, I don't even enjoy saying this, but this was the legitimate truth of the situation. They would have what they called a pigs in space night, and I don't know if it was their marketing or just the kind of word of mouth thing that was going on, but no, it had to have been theirs. It was pigs in space. And last minute edit, sometimes I find myself falling back into the same old patterns of skipping over details because it's uncomfortable. But I realize that some of you folks, especially the younger ones out there, might be thinking, why is he saying pigs in space? What does that mean? Just to give some reference, back in the day, if you're familiar with Jim Henson and the Muppets, Kermit and Miss Piggy, the Muppets had a variety comedic show, and one of the popular sketches was Pigs in Space, and that was Miss Piggy and other pigs in space. And so why would they use that term? I can't say for certain, but if I had to take an educated guess, it would be because they were appealing to bigger girls in the neighborhood, but then also the base was an aviation base, so pigs in space. That's the only thing that makes sense. Again, it's horrible, it's so offensive, but that's what they used. Yeah, and I just wanted to make sure that it made sense to everyone. What that meant was that for the local women, many who were of a certain girth, just keeping it real, if you went to this club, you would get, I don't remember if it was a free drink or free drinks for the night, don't recall, but that was their way of attracting the women to the club, and then would attract the military guys. It was brilliant as far as a marketing technique, because it worked. On Pigs in Space Night, that place was just, it would be jam-packed with folks. And so one night I ended up going to Pigs in Space, and obviously at this point, there's something else that happened with me and a dude on the base that same trip, and that might be a different video that I make, so I won't go into that. But let's just say at this point I was just really, again, I knew that I was gay, but I was still at the point where I was struggling with, was I going to lead a gay life, or could it be possible that I could have this combination, maybe be married and do stuff on the side? Not that I would want to do that, but just how? That's basically what I'm saying. Like, how could I live this life where I could maybe be normal but still satisfy the urges? I don't know. Again, that might be for another video. But I was at this club and this one girl walks in, and she was a beautiful, you know, I believe she was half Caucasian, half Japanese, but just absolutely beautiful. And the type of girl that when she walked in, like all of the guys, their eyes all turned to her, including mine. She was just gorgeous. So she walks in with her friend and they go up to the bar. And of course me, I'm just kind of like just doing what I do, not really in that mode of trying to pick up, as you can imagine. I think she noticed that and she liked that about me, that I wasn't looking at her. So it's like her and her friends start talking to me and one of my coworkers, one of my friends. So this is the four of us talking. So she asks me to dance. I go out there, we're dancing. I can see like some of my coworkers, they're men, they're all looking at me like, oh, you go, Mikey. They're all just kind of like super excited for me. But me, I'm not really thinking much of it. I like to dance. So I'm dancing with this girl who just so happened to be beautiful, right? So afterwards, I remember, because we had like a shuttle that would take us back to the base at a certain time, and that time was approaching. So the girl, and we will call her Janet. So Janet says, you know, or we say, hey, we have to like go outside. The shuttle is going to come to pick us up and take us back to the base. And Janet goes, okay, well, we would like to buy you guys breakfast. So why don't you just like chill out with us and we'll take you to breakfast and then we'll drop you off at the base. Sweet bonus, right? Especially my friend who was totally digging her friend. And he's like, what do you think? I'm like, yeah, let's do this. So we stay behind to take us to breakfast. They pay for our breakfast. And then so Janet goes, okay, well, you know, my friend is going to drop your friend off. Why don't I drop you off? Okay, so get in her car. She takes me to the base. And now we are outside of my barracks. And I remember her saying something like, hey, can we go upstairs? And of course, you weren't allowed to bring women into like a men's barracks. So I was kind of like, I don't think we should. Even though people did that, I really wasn't in the mindset to do something like that. So I'm like, no, maybe we shouldn't. Let's just chill here. She was cool with that. So we're in her car and we start, you know, making out, and just a lot of foreplay stuff was happening, a lot of feeling and groping, you know, that kind of situation. Well, we end up going to the back seat of the car and start doing stuff. And so that was that. We were leaving. I think it was like the next day or a couple of days later. So we go back to Florida, which is where I was stationed. And so I gave her my address because, you know, I was living on the base in the barracks. So I really didn't have, like, this is before cell phones and all that type of stuff. I give her my address. And so the way that it worked when you lived on base is that your mail would go to your squadron. That was like the only way to get mail. So she starts sending me letters, and the letters were sent on Hello Kitty stationery. So not just the letter, but she had like the envelope and like everything was Hello Kitty, maybe like even stamps, but it was all kittied out. and pink, and she would spray her perfume. So of course, that kind of became a thing at work because I'm getting these letters, and I'm pretty sure at this point people thought they knew exactly who I was, even though I wasn't out. But the fact that now I'm getting Hello Kitty letters just fascinated everyone. And so like, oh, who's this from? And everyone was super interested in finding out who the letters were from and what they said. You know, that was a big thing. Now that I'm back home, now that I'm back in a setting to where I can further explore my attraction for men, getting these letters kind of like freaked me out. And I'm thinking, oh gosh, what do I do with them? So, you know, but I read them and they're just normal letters that you would expect. Oh, I had a great time with you. It was such a pleasure meeting you. And hopefully we can, you know, make a connection and have this going on? The next time you're in Nevada, let me know, you know, that kind of stuff. And it kind of freaked me out because I'm like, oh gosh, I was faced with this. Now, as my life, I was trying to move forward. This was kind of like something that's like, oh, but wait, what about me? I didn't know how to respond, so I didn't. And here's the thing, she kept sending me letters. I would get like a letter a week from her. And so again, on Hello Kitty stationery, and I just didn't respond. So after a while, the letters, she started sending them, but the Hello Kitty, like on the stationery, she would like draw over the kitty and kind of put devil horns and the tail, and you know, and make it red. So she turned Hello Kitty into Devil Kitty. So of course, and this is on the envelopes as well. So when that came in, oh my gosh, everyone is super interested. What did you do? What is going on? Of course, as you can imagine. And the letters, they turned, and it was like, how dare you? Like, you were just using me for a free breakfast and for my body, and you know, I thought you were different from the other guys, and you just seem so sweet, but you're not. You're, you know, D word, and like every word she could think of. She kind of, it got to the point where she was just tossing all this stuff at me. And so of course I made it even less likely that I was going to respond to her. And so I didn't. I just ignored it all. I never responded to her. And there was something about the last letter that I got from her. And again, at this point, everything was just so, there was so much anger that she had. But the last letter, man, it broke my heart. You know, it was just, she really went into all of the dreams that she had, and how she had been waiting for someone who was going to show her that she could be treated in a different way. And she thought she found that in me. And I don't know, it was just, there was something about reading those words that just, it reminded me of me. And I was thinking, man, I knew exactly how she felt. You know, so many years that I had that dream of meeting someone. In my case, it was a guy, but meeting that one guy who was going to treat me different. Would that ever happen? Would I ever come across someone who would be different and who would kind of make me believe there was something more than what was presented in front of me? And yeah, that I realized that's the moment that I realized that I hurt her. Like, 'cause before that, it, just keeping it real with y'all, it was a joke. It became a joke. And again, because of the fact that it was Devil Kitty, like, it was things that people were laughing about at work, and I laughed too. That sucks to say, but it's true. I did laugh at it, and I did find it, you know, humorous until that last letter. And that's when it hit me, and that's when I realized who I was. And then another realization that I could hurt someone, because again, I didn't think that I could, but I absolutely hurt her. And you know, you would think, okay, it was just one night, but it wasn't. And I should have known better, because at that point in my life, I would have died for that one night, to be with someone who treated me well and listened to me, and it wasn't just about having sex. It was, you know, just wanting to get to know me, because that's exactly how I approached it with her. Obviously, there was probably different reasons, but that's how she was taking it. And that's how I would have, again, I wanted that moment, and I gave her that moment, but then I took it away from her. I took anything else that could have happened from that moment away from her, that dream. So, yeah, I saw myself. I was able to look myself in the mirror and think, man, in this journey of you trying to find out who you are and love yourself and all these great things that you want to do, you cannot hurt other people. They cannot be casualties of of things that you need to work out and things that you need to go through. Yeah, it was. I wrote her back apologizing. She never responded. That was like the end. Never got anything back from that. But it was that moment where I thought, I can never ever do this again to anyone. Like, I don't want anyone to be a casualty of my stuff. So yeah, I learned a lot from that, from the devil kitty. You know, and again, it's funny to say, but there was a lot of pain behind it. And I know I was going through my own stuff, so it's not like, you know, obviously I'm older now. I know that I wasn't in my right mind, and a lot of us, we go through this stuff to where we're just trying to live and be happy, but you can't hurt other people in that process. It's not fair to them. And I learned that with that experience. One more edit. I realized that I just said I learned from that experience as if I never hurt anyone since then on this journey of mine for growth and discovering who I am. That's not true. I did hurt a few more folks. So maybe instead of learn, a better word would be that I became aware of one of my faults, and maybe that was the beginning process of growing, because what I can say is that I never hurt another female. So there was growth, but I did hurt others in my journey. My journey was not complete yet. And so I had to make sure that I clarified that. And, you know, sometimes I just want to wrap something up in a pretty bow, but no, there was still tons of work to be done after that. And I had to make sure that I pointed that out. And so I wanted to share this experience because it is a bad Mikey video. And again, I think, like as I mentioned, I think it is beneficial for me to talk about the bad parts of myself as well. But also it might help someone else out there who, especially if you are younger and you're currently going through this thing where you're just trying to figure out who you are. That's totally fine, but you cannot hurt anyone else while you're trying to fix yourself. You just can't. So a like would be great, a subscribe would be even better, but most importantly, comment and let me know, did you have that same experience where you hurt someone in becoming who you're supposed to be, or who you wanted to be, or maybe you're that girl, maybe you got hurt, and whatever the situation is, I would love to know about your story.